Hey guys, Fearu here, and I'm going to be making my first Hearthstone video. Um, so first off, a little bit about me. For those of you that don't know me, I am currently rank 391 Legend. I hit Legend probably just about 2 weeks ago. I was about maybe 450 Legend then, and then I started playing, messing around with my own decks, and I just tanked it. I started messing around with the new Nax cards, wanted to mess around with like Shade, messing around with Kel'Thuzad, and I hit just rock bottom Legend like that. There's a point where like you hit Legend and you lose a game and your rank doesn't go down, and then you lose a game. And the only reason your rank goes down is because someone else hit Legend, and now you can go below them, and uh, and then I basically was just always at the bottom of Legend. And I would say like 4 days ago it was probably 1700 Legend, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a push just to see how far I can get for fun, because I hadn't grinded in a while. I've just been messing around with new decks, and I decided to make a push with a Hunter deck, and now I'm 391, so up about 1300 ranks, which isn't too bad if I do say so myself. So anyway, that's enough about me. Now what am I gonna do? What am I gonna teach you? What's the video about? I am here to teach you guys about hunter decks, um, and how to play them, the variants of them, what different decks do, why you should change your deck depending on should you change your deck. So first off, a number of things. If you are between ranks 25 and ranks probably about 5, I would say pick a hunter deck. Doesn't matter which one. Like, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of variants today. Pick one, and you should be able to get to rank 5 just through playing. You might, I mean, some might be harder and some might be easier depending on what the meta is. And I'm going to explain to you, which ones are good and which metas. But typically, if you're between those ranks, you can win simply by making less and less mistakes, and the easiest way to do that is to play the same deck over and over again. And if your goal is to actually climb, that's what you should do. I mean, if you're bored and you want to try a new deck, that can happen, but just expect it to be harder, because when you try to learn a new deck, you're going to make mistakes. Like, you're going to make mulligan mistakes. You're going to make mistakes that you don't even realize you're making. Like, oh, I should never keep that card against Warrior. Whoops. Oh, I should never, mulligan that card away. Oh, I should be aggressively mulliganing for Flare in this matchup. Whatever it might be. So, anyway. Alright. So, the first deck I'm going to show you is this deck that I initially hit Legend with. It's very, very close to it. Like I said, I hit it. This was before Mad Scientist came out. Or actually, maybe Mad Scientist was out, but Rained hadn't shown it to everybody, that particular deck. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this deck. So, where to begin? This deck is still relevant. And the reason it was good when I was using it was because if you asked people what beats mid-range hunter, and if you ask them today, they'll still tell you the same thing. They'll say control paladin, control warrior, maybe a little bit of priest. This deck actually has a positive win rate against control warrior, and the reason why is just changing 1 to 2 cards. This deck, you'll notice, doesn't have Leroy Jenkins in it. Typically, Leroy in a deck against Control Warrior is a dead card. You draw it and you want to mulligan it away. You draw it again and you're like, crap, I can't play this, they have a taunt. Crap, I can't play this, they have a taunt. Crap, I can't play this, they have a taunt. And you're just like, too bad. And you hope to get lucky, but chances are it's a hard matchup. And when you add in just cards like Deadly Shot, Iron Beak Owl, Stampeding Kodo, when you add in those 3, it can take away a lot of those control decks can take away their best tools against you. It can take away things like those heavy taunts. It can take away Sludge Belchers. It can take away Acolytes of Pain. It can take away Armor Smiths, and when they don't have those tools available, or they're dealt with a lot easier with those cards than other options you would have in the other decks. It's a lot easier to deal with that with an Iron Beak Owl or a Deadly Shot than dealing with it with a Eagle Horn bow or whatever it's called. Um, so this deck's really, really good for that. When you're going up against a mirror matchup, and whenever I say mirror matchup, I'm going to assume like a copy of the Reynad list. This deck can be also useful because when you have Flare, you're basically waiting for them to play traps and you get to use Flare. When they have Flare, they're holding Flare, and they're like, when's he going to play his trap? When's it going to happen? And the answer is never. And they'll think they're playing a mirror matchup because they'll see the same opening. They'll see the web spinner, they'll see the haunted creeper, they'll see you using hero power. They'll be like, all right, play a trap. And you just never do. And that can give you a slight edge because often they'll mulligan for flare as well. The other thing is the addition of Stone Tusk Boar is really, really good when you're versing anything with secrets. Against Hunter, you're able to pop things like Freezing Trap. You're able to pop all the traps. And having it go off on a Stone Tusk Boar is a lot better than having it go off on a Savannah High main. Also, when you're versing something like a Mage, and you want to know if something's Mirror Entity or Vaporize, you can play that Stone Tusk Boar, and when they get a copy of a Stone Tusk Boar with Mirror Entity, it'll just make your day, right? Best thing in the world. So that card's really, really useful in the current meta. Now, I'm not saying the mirror match versus Hunter isn't necessarily easier. Reynad's list is technically better in the mirror matchup, but you have these tools that can give you a slight edge. Like, you can make it closer to 50%. Technically, his deck is slightly faster and will out-tempo you, but you have things that can give you an edge. Okay, so looking at Reynad's list, it looks something, give or take, it'll look something like this. Give me a second to take out some cards here. It'll look something like this. And then, what, like one Leroy? No, there's supposed to be two Mad Scientists. What am I doing wrong here, team? Let's figure this out. Dragon, Buzzard, Haunted Creeper, Savage Hyena, one kill command. Got it. I'm so good at this game. Alright. Okay, so this is what Reynad's deck list looks like, and his deck list, I would say, is the best going up from about ranks 25 to 5. This deck is worse in the control matchup than the one that I showed you previous. Like it's way worse in Control Warrior. Like I would say it's probably somewhere like 7% worse in that matchup. But it's slightly better in the mirror matchup against the Kalento-esque Hunter. And it's good versus a general meta. This particular version, you'll notice, only runs 3 traps. That is a little bit greedy, because what can happen is if you're versing, or not if you're versing, if you draw 2 traps and you draw a Mad Scientist, that second Mad Scientist you draw isn't going to have value. It's just going to be a 2/2 for 2, which is really bad. So what you can do to fix that is dropping a flare or dropping a tracking. I personally prefer to drop 1 flare and run 1 flare 2 tracking. The reason for that is because I like to be able to search for combo pieces like Unleash or Buzzard or whether it be an Eaglehorn bow or a particular trap. I like to be able to search for that particular, or be able to search more aggressively for flare. Some people prefer 2 flare to 1 tracking. I don't have the stats to tell you which one's better. I can only tell you my preference. I wish I could have some way to back that up. I know Gosu Gamers did an article on it the other day, which was pretty good, giving the relevance of tracking. But I think 4 traps is the right amount. If you're going into a tournament, I saw that, I believe it was Strife Crow, ran 1 freezing, 1 snake trap, and then 2 explosive. He did this because if you win game 1 and you go into game 2, it can allow for some. It can allow for some tricks, basically, where you can catch the opponent off guard by being like, oh, I was expecting a freezing trap, and your buzzard just procced 3 draws, and you can have that surprise element. But I would say for typical ladder grinding, I would typically stick to 2 explosive and 2 freezing. The other matchup that this deck has an advantage of over the Kalento deck that I initially showed you is that it is way better when you are versing Zoo, because you're able to out-tempo them a lot, just drastically better. There's no other way to say it. Deadly Shot doesn't get as much value. Almost all the card differences in there don't get as much value as this deck, and this deck has a pretty decent win rate against it. The third deck that people have been encountering is basically when you break that rank 5 mark, like when you hit that rank 5 mark, you need to find an edge, because typically people are either playing this deck or they're playing a deck that counters it. So if you're playing this deck, you're usually going to run into, like if you're playing this exact Mad Scientist Hunter deck, you're gonna run into Mirror Match on Mirror Match, or you're going to run into something that counters it. You're going to run into Control Paladin, Control Warrior. So people have been looking for an edge, and what they've discovered is that if you... What do they remove? Give me like 2 seconds to think here. This is really bothering me. I believe they remove the Houndmasters, but I'm not sure. I think it looks something like this. I'm going to say it looks like this, although don't quote me. You're going to find tons of different variants online. But basically, it looks like this, with 2 Leper Gnomes, 2 Undertakers. So this version that you're seeing here basically beats the mirror matchup. Again, you might want to run 4 traps. In this version, I would argue... What would I take out? I might take out 1 tracking here, and go into... I might take out 1 tracking and then run the additional trap, and then run 4 traps. But basically, this deck is faster than, like, you hit rank 5 and everyone's running. Let's say you see nothing, or whatever rank it might be, because I'm just speculating it ranks below what I am. I mean, you might get up there and you might be fine. You might be able to run Rainhead Hunter all the way up. But if you're seeing nothing but Rainhead Hunter, whatever rank you are, you're just seeing nothing but Hunter, this deck will beat it because it's just faster. It's just a lot faster. Like if you get an Undertaker out and then you get like a turn 2 Leper, like if you get a turn 1 Undertaker coin Leper Gnome, or you get a turn 1 Undertaker, turn 2 Haunted Creeper, or turn 1 Undertaker, turn 2 Mad Scientist, it just outpaces the other deck, and is just drastically more aggressive, and you're able to kill them usually by turn 7 or 8, and that helps you in that matchup. Some even take out the Buzzard Unleash combo, and in lieu of that, they run Leper Gnome, and it's just incredibly fast. Now if you do this deck's going to be even worse against control matchups. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible against Priest. If you see this deck, typically the way to beat it is not play Hunter. This is going to beat all the Hunter matchups. Period. Like the Hunter mirrors. This is going to be the better deck. The way to beat it is to switch to a control deck. If you're seeing nothing but this deck, typically Priest is able to kick the crap out of it with Cabal, and then if you land a turn 5 Holy Nova, it's just over. And I mean, that pretty much wraps it up. You'll see the different versions. I think I've covered pretty much everything. As far as coin usage with all the decks, the biggest thing when you're actually playing the deck is setting up a good turn with the coin, keeping a good curve, but particularly figuring out when you have the coin, you're often trying to figure out one of two things. A, should I use it to get back-to-back turns? So, like, if you have turn 2, turn 3, and you have 2 3-drops, you're going to want to use the coin on turn 3 to get, like, maybe a turn 3 or turn 3, a turn 3 Eagle Horn Bow, a turn 2 Eagle Horn Bow, turn 3 Animal Companion, or vice versa. Or, if that's not the option, sometimes getting out, especially in the mirror match, getting out the Savannah Highmane a turn earlier is really, really important. Other things to keep in mind against handlock, even though I haven't seen much of it, getting kill commands to be able to burst them once they hit that low point, to be able to get through their taunts is really, really important, and saving it for that particular moment is what you want to do. If you're seeing the control matchups, figuring out which card to get rid of to add Ironbeak Owl is usually the card that you want to add. Typically, the cards that you're going to get rid of initially are going to be, well, in this version it would obviously be you'd be getting rid of Undertaker, Leper Gnome, and switching it to a more control version. And then obviously, if you're versing a lot of control decks, getting rid of Leroy helps drastically, because then it's not a dead card running into all the taunts. I think that pretty much covers it. Also, oh, one more thing. Okay, when you're playing this deck, or any of these versions with Mad Scientist and Haunted Creeper, typically the proper play, no matter what turn it is, if you have a choice between Mad Scientist and Haunted Creeper, is to play the Mad Scientist first. Because you want to save Haunted Creeper for a Houndmaster or a Buzzard. And obviously, if you're going to set up for the Houndmaster and you're going to play it the next turn, you play the Haunted Creeper. But otherwise, you typically want to develop the Mad Scientist right away, so it can also thin your deck of traps as well. That's the basics to it. If you have any questions in particular to a certain matchup or one of these decks, or you want me to look at your deck that might be, it can be a variant of this. But just try to include what you're versing, what you're seeing, what you're trying to beat, what your deck looks like. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. If you like this content, let me know. If you hate this content, let me know. I'm just putting it out there because I got nothing better to do for like 10 minutes a day. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.